Morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this LinkedIn Live today, or if you're catching the replay, hello as well. Feel free to leave your comments below. Today's guest that I have on LinkedIn Live today is Lasse Rheingans, and he is in Bielefeld in Germany. And he was my most recent guest on the Happier at Work podcast, a podcast that proved really popular. It's all about the 5-hour workday and how we can be more productive and set clearer boundaries, and essentially how we can reduce the amount of time that we work and still get more stuff done. So Lasse, do you want to introduce yourself quickly, and then we can touch on some of the points that were raised in the podcast and also some of the comments that have come through since?
I can try. Thanks. Thanks for having me, actually. I studied media production and media science and worked in the digital area for almost 20 years, or a bit longer actually, just a bit more than 20 years, and led some companies, some agencies, and built platforms, e-commerce shops, etc. Recently, actually 4 years ago, I sold my company shares in my former agency and had some weeks' time to think about where I want to go and how I would like to work in the future. And I was lucky to be able to buy another company, which was smaller, with 12 employees back then. And I realized how life got faster. I have kids, I have a lot of friends, I do a lot of things when it's no lockdown. And I realized sometimes I find myself in the office just waiting for the time to pass, really, because I can't really work all the time at that level I want to work, like the concentration level. So I realized work could be organized differently if we look at how the people work in today's world, like creative work and very focused work, which takes a lot of energy. So what I did back then is I introduced the 5-hour workday in my new team, which means that my colleagues work from 8 to 1 without cutting the salaries or the holiday entitlements. And that was quite a thing in 2017. So all the newspapers nationally and internationally really picked up the story and talked to us. And we had lots of television teams in our office. And that was crazy, because I thought, why is this such a thing when studies show that people can't really concentrate and work for 8 hours straight? Yeah, and that's me. I'm here still, and now we're talking.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And you do, like on the podcast itself, you talk about some of the challenges that you had in that. So if anyone wants to understand more about the challenges of implementing that type of work policy in your organization, listen to the full podcast. I think I put a link below. If I haven't, then I will certainly add the link to the full podcast below this post. But there's a few things that have come up since the podcast has come out. So as I mentioned, it has proved really popular. So I'm really delighted about that. And some of the comments and the questions that have come up. So a couple of things have been around this idea. So we're in lockdown 3 in Ireland at the moment, with a lot of people homeschooling. And I can see that it's had a huge impact on people that, it's just, I think in other lockdowns, there was something to look forward to. We're like, oh, this will be different in 2021. Now it is 2021, and we can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel yet. People are really struggling with trying to manage homeschooling and working as well. But one of the comments was around using the techniques that I described in a post on LinkedIn yesterday to be able to more effectively manage home, kind of work and school life at the same time. And another comment was around neurodiversity, where people who can't concentrate for long periods of time, it's actually better for them to have a shorter work day. So I thought those two in particular were really interesting, really important. Any thoughts to share on that?
I think we are in lockdown here as well. And homeschooling is a thing here too. And I have 2 kids, and it's terrible. In short, I think this concept of work-life balance is something that changes and has changed over the last years. I think there is no real work-life balance because we are lucky enough to have a job that perfectly fits to our interests and our strengths. Yes. But right now that's difficult because work seems to be everywhere. We're all in home office and homeschooling is happening. And what I think really need is the balance and really the strict boundaries in place that we can really concentrate on one thing or the other. It's better for everyone involved. I can just say for myself, when I'm sitting homeschooling my kids while trying to work just next to it, it doesn't work at all. My kids don't work, I don't work, and it's just not good. So I think the first thing to see is really this situation is very special. We have to accept it. We can't change it anyway. So we really need to have like time slots where we really can work, and be just an hour of concentrated work. Yeah. Because otherwise it will not work at all. And in the end, we will burn out, and nobody has taken any advantage of it.
This is it, yeah. And I 100% agree with you about boundaries. And I suppose the thing with homeschooling is, while I hear all the stories anecdotally, and I hear from my friends, I don't have kids, so it's not impacting on me directly. And therefore, I don't really have a concept of what the day-to-day, what that actually looks like. So someone else had to call that out to me, that actually this will be quite useful to apply. And some of the rules that we've kind of discussed on the podcast will be really beneficial in that scenario. So I thought that was very interesting. On the work-life balance piece, I prefer to kind of think of it as, in normal circumstances anyway, a blended approach. And on the podcast, probably it's over a year ago at this stage, we talked about happiness at work, and Emiliana Simon-Thomas shared what she calls it's work-life harmony. So it's when it harmonizes. To me, balance, it's kind of like a balancing act, and one thing has to give. And like, it's, for me, it's a bit more stressful, let's say, than if you're trying to find something that blends together. So it's kind of work-life harmony. They complement each other in a way. And I thought that was a really, really nice approach.
Yes, it is. It is. And one thing that just came up to my mind is the people at home right now. And it pops up because a colleague of mine told us so in our meetings online, that she feels a lot of pressure because the work is not visible like it used to be. We're not in the office. So everyone is sitting at home, and often we have days with no real like physical result. We have been working on whatever sheets, whatever software, whatever code or strategy, and you can't really see the output. Yeah. And this is something that needs to be talked openly about, because it's so difficult for many people sitting at home trying to arrange everything, do the work, do the homework, do homeschooling, do cooking, etc. And it's really, really hard for them. It's just a psychological thing that people need to see and understand that this is happening, and we're not alone in it. We're all together in this situation. So let's talk about it to release this pressure a bit.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely one of our psychological needs, I think. Maybe not everyone has this, but I certainly do. Like, to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day, that you have some sort of tangible thing, that you've ticked something off, that you've got something to show for your day, that you have been productive in that day. And, you know, it may be alleviated by getting feedback from other people to say, okay, you know, let's have a look at how much progress you've made on this project. Okay, you know, or feedback from clients or something like that, to get this sense of achievement, or really taking that time out to reflect and figure out, well, what worked well today and what can I improve on, and taking time to reflect on what was actually achieved, to feel that sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, when you're kind of like, I don't feel like I did anything. I feel like I was kind of sitting around, or I haven't made that much progress. So I don't know if that's something that might work in that situation.
And sometimes creativity is exactly starting there, when you sit around and not do much, but suddenly you have the best idea. And in these times we need good ideas, and we don't do repetitive work. So maybe sometimes that's the perfect thing to do, just relax and not do anything at all. Yeah, exactly. That's when the ideas spark. I was reading a book recently, and they were referring to, I can't even remember who it was they were referring to, someone quite famous, and they said he took 5 showers a day because all the best ideas come when you're in the shower, you know. Exactly. That you're not trying to concentrate on work, that you've taken yourself out of that situation. And that's the thing in the 5-hour workday, when people leave office at 1, in normal times, perhaps. Very often they go for a walk in the forest, or they do some sports or whatever. And the next day they come back into office and they had the best idea while cycling around, or going for a swim or a walk in the forest. And this is very, very important for us as a company. And they feel happy because of their work-life harmony and the blending, because they can go to the forest. And still, very subtle, there's this process or this creativity coming up and really delivering benefits for the company as well.
Yeah, definitely. One kind of last area I wanted to touch on, there were a lot of comments. So I shared a kind of a graphic image that I created based on our discussion on the podcast. And it's been shared quite a lot. It's been liked. There's been loads of comments that I haven't had a chance to refer back to. But one specific area that you highlighted just before we came on air is this area of accountability. And I know you wanted to share some thoughts around that.
Yes. Now I think there's a lack of English vocabulary for this, but I think if there's not enough accountability, it's the 5-hour workday is very hard, and it really needs processes and rules and this accountability, because when there's a lack of, things are not prioritized enough, people don't take them as a task for them, and then you will see that you don't deliver the same results than you used to in longer work days. In longer work days, I think sometimes people are even bored and see, oh, there's a task, I could actually do this. And I think the accountability is a very, very main thing that we have seen in our team, that sometimes we really need to talk about it. We had supervision workshops with an external consultant helping us to see where we have things that we have to talk about, and accountability was on the list every other day.
It's really interesting, I think. And is it a case that people don't feel like it's their decision to make, or that they're not stepping up to take that accountability that has been given to them? And thank you for acknowledging that it's really difficult, because sometimes it's easy to think, oh yeah, I'll reduce my work day, and it's not that simple. And it's great that you highlight that there are processes and rules that you need to put in place, and that people really need to take that accountability as well. But what do you think the blocks are there? Why do you think that accountability keeps coming up?
I think because it is so hard to structure yourself, to prioritize your task and your days. So I think that's the main thing, the main problem, and it all boils down to the personal growth or the personal maturity of people. When you have people start jobs thinking about how a job has to be or what they have to do, but today it's so difficult to describe what you have to do, because things change all the time. In our job and in our area, my job changed over the last, it's constantly changing actually, but even the software developers I employ, their job has changed so dramatically. So it's a different time, and we need to accept and see the need to change all the time, and that needs then we need a lot of maturity in the personal growth or the personal mindset in the personal area. And I think that's the main reason that people don't really see or know what it actually is they have to deliver sometimes. Does that make sense?
That makes,
to you?
It makes absolute sense to me, and I can totally relate to it. I'd love to hear other people's views in the comments. I mean, to me, makes absolute sense. And it is this fluid nature of work these days, and it can constantly change and new things come up. But like you say, it's setting clear boundaries, having those rules in place as to what is and is not acceptable. But then also, and we do talk about this on the podcast, prioritizing what needs to be done. And maybe those priorities need to change. Maybe they need to change throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the quarter, if things are changing and evolving over time. And that's really what needs to happen. But really, really, really great insights there around accountability. And I suppose the other thing is that accountability, in my view, needs to come from the top. So it needs to be kind of demonstrated from the top down, as this is how to accept accountability. This is how to kind of really step into that role. This is how I do it. It may not work for everyone, but try.
Absolutely.
You can try different things and find out what works best for you. To me, the place to start is going back to what I said earlier, this idea of reflection. So just taking some time out to really reflect on what went well and write it down. If it's in your head, then it's in your head and it's taking up space. But if you can write that down at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, and really figure out where you're going and what went well and how can you improve, I think that's definitely a place to start.
This clarity you achieve while doing this is so important, because otherwise you think about the same things every day, and it takes energy and it takes focus away from the work you should be doing. And what I really think is very useful is structure your day, set the priorities straight, see what's really important. Don't check mails all the time. Don't go to social media all the time. Do your work, and you will be amazed how quickly most of the job is done of the first couple of hours in a day. And if you write down all the findings, you can work with them and not think about them all the time, every day of the week. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Any parting thoughts to leave with people? I'm just conscious of the time here. We're going to wrap it up. Any parting wisdom or parting thoughts that you want to leave with people?
One thing, coming back to the homeschooling part and people with no kids at home, I think the good thing about homeschooling and the kids is that you really have to have structured days and rituals how to actually start and work through the day. Because I think many people in Germany, we have lockdown too, many people, or I've heard about it, that many people don't really get dressed properly because every day is the same. It's like a weekend every day. And suddenly they have to work still. And it's really, every day is the same. And that is very depressing. I think rituals and a good structure can help not to be depressed so much. And get through this.
So dressing up for work every day, having a shower, dressing up, putting on shoes rather than slippers, little rituals, like you say, like that, I think can make a difference, definitely.
On a personal level.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned at the beginning, if I haven't put the link to the full podcast, I will put the link below this post here, so you can click in and listen to the full podcast with Lasse. Lasse, thank you so much for your time today and on the podcast. It was a real pleasure to speak with you, and hopefully we will chat again soon.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.